Hello, welcome to the 225 Literary and Jury Charge. I'm going to start off with a definition of proximate cause, and I'm going to read this at 200 and then again at 225. All right, here we go. You're going to hear cause of action, or cause of the accident, proximate cause, negligent, on the other hand. All right, here we go. Ready? Proximate cause is sometimes defined as the direct or immediate cause of the accident. An alleged negligent act or omission is a proximate cause or of an accident or injury where such act or omission is a substantial factor causing the accident. If a person has no reasonable ground to expect or anticipate that a particular act would or might result in any injury to anybody, then of course the act would not be negligent at all, and no liability could result by reason of such act or omission. But on the other hand, if the act is one which the party ought, in the exercise of ordinary care, to have anticipated was liable to result in injury to others, then he is liable for any injury proximately resulting from it, although he could not have anticipated the particular injury which did happen. Consequences which follow in unbroken sequence without an intervening efficient cause from the original neglect or negligent act are natural and proximate, and for such consequences the original wrongdoer is responsible even though he could not have foreseen the particular results which did follow. All right, I'm going to read that again at 225. Here we go. And just so, I just want to let you guys know, of course, I like to use the phrase final FK for of course. Okay, here we go. Proximate cause is sometimes defined as the direct or immediate cause of the accident. An alleged negligent act or omission is a proximate cause of an accident or injury where such act or omission is a substantial factor causing the accident. If a person has no reasonable ground to expect or anticipate that a particular act would or might result in any injury to anybody, then of course the act would not be negligent at all, and no liability could result by reason of such act or omission. But on the other hand, if the act is one which the party ought, in the exercise of ordinary care, to have anticipated was liable to result in injury to others, then he is liable for any injury proximately resulting from it, although he could not have anticipated the particular injury which did happen. Consequences which follow in unbroken sequence without an intervening efficient cause from the original neglect act are natural and proximate, and for such consequences the original wrongdoer is responsible even though he could not have foreseen the particular results which did follow. All right. Moving right into our next drill. I have some congressional record, and the subject is right to life. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to give you a word list. We've got tenet, deplorable, contradiction, intellectuals, condone, liberals, inherit, conservative, reaffirmed, physicians, abortion, colleagues, commonplace, distinguished, constitution, amendment, resolution, unborn. Okay, and I will read this at 200. Ready? Mr. Speaker, I am introducing today a resolution to protect the life of the unborn. It is with a deep sense of moral responsibility and conviction that I once again propose this amendment to the Constitution of the United States to ensure that due process and equal protection are afforded to each and every individual with respect to the right of life. Mr. Speaker, more than 1,500,000 babies are aborted every year. These abortions are in direct contradiction to the principle that each and every individual has the most basic of all rights, the right to life. It is the responsibility of the United States to protect that right. This responsibility has been recognized by many of my distinguished colleagues. I am pleased to say that the liberals and conservatives alike, as well as individuals on both sides of the road, have repeatedly shown support for the God-given right, the right to life. It is deplorable that we find ourselves in a society where abortion is commonplace and where physicians and intellectuals condone the taking of lives. It is time that we confront this issue and move to protect those lives that are needlessly taken each day. The basic tenet is that human life, regardless of age, health, or condition of dependency, must be preserved, protected, and guaranteed under our Constitution. The unborn have long been held to have legal rights under the law. They have property rights. They may inherit property, family names, and in some societies, family titles. As such, they deserve to be safeguarded, just as an adult is protected under existing laws governing murder. Mr. Speaker, the right to life, especially for the unborn, must be reaffirmed and protected. In that spirit, I offer the following resolution to restore this most basic human right and to ensure that this right is recognized and protected under the Constitution of the United States. All right. I'm going to read an excerpt from Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. This is allow yourself to be bored. Okay, here we go. Ready? I'm going to read this at 200. For many of us, our lives are so filled with stimuli, not to mention responsibilities, that it's almost impossible for us to sit still and do nothing, much less relax, even for a few minutes. A friend of mine said to me, people are no longer human beings. We should be called human doings. I was first exposed to the idea that occasional boredom can actually be good for me while studying with a therapist in La Conner, Washington, a tiny little town with very little to do. After finishing our first day together, I asked my instructor, "What is there to do around here at night?" He responded by saying, "What I'd like you to do is allow yourself to be bored. Do nothing. This is part of your training." At first I thought he was kidding. Why on earth would I choose to be bored? I asked. He went on to explain that if you allow yourself to be bored, even for an hour or less, and don't fight it, the feelings of boredom will be replaced with feelings of peace, and after a little practice, you will learn to relax. Much to my surprise, he was absolutely right. At first, I could barely stand it. I was so used to doing something every second that I really struggled to relax. But after a while, I got used to it and have long since learned to enjoy it. I'm not talking about hours of idle time or laziness, but simply learning the art of relaxing, of just being rather than doing for a few minutes each day. There isn't a specific technique other than to consciously do nothing. Just sit still, perhaps look out the window and notice your thoughts and feelings. At first you may get a little anxious, but each day it will get a little easier. The payback is tremendous. Much of our anxiety and inner struggles stem from our busy, overactive minds, always needing something to entertain them, something to focus on, and always wondering what's next. While we're eating dinner, we wonder what is for dessert. While eating dessert, we ponder what we should do afterward. After that evening, it's what should we do for the weekend. After we've been out, we walk into the house and immediately turn on the television, pick up the cell phone, open a book, or start cleaning. It's almost as though we're frightened at the thought of not having something to do even for a minute. The beauty of doing nothing is that it teaches you to clear your mind and relax. It allows your mind the freedom to not know for a brief period of time. Just like your body, your mind needs an occasional break from its hectic routine. When you allow your mind to take a break, it comes back stronger, sharper, more focused, and creative. When you allow yourself to be bored, it takes an enormous amount of pressure off you to be performing and doing something every second of the day. Now, when either of my two children says to me, "Daddy, I'm bored," I respond by saying, Great, be bored for a while. It's good for you." Once I say this, they always give up on the idea of me solving their problem. You probably never thought someone would actually suggest that you allow yourself to be bored. I guess there's a first for everything. So true. All right. Moving right into our next segment. Legal opinion. All right, here we go. Let me give you a, let's see here. All right, I'm going to give you a word list. thought that was a legal opinion. Okay, actually, I'm sorry. It's a verdict of the jury. Sorry about that. I'm going to read this at 200. Okay. All right, you're going to hear Oliver Henry, peace officer Robert Quincy, to wit, allegation, above entitled, felony, handgun, firearm, ye, which means thou, violation, Penal Code, New York, O'Rourke, Samuel M. Huffman. All right. Here we go. Your Honor, we have reached a verdict in this case, People versus Oliver Henry O'Rourke. We, the jury, in the above entitled action find the allegation against the defendant, Oliver Henry O'Rourke, that in the commission and attempted commission of the offense as contained in count 1, that a principal in said offense was armed with a firearm, to wit, a handgun, said arming not being an element of the above offense within the meaning of Penal Code Section 89578.3 true. This 15th day of April 2014, Samuel M. Huffman, foreman. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is your verdict. So say ye one, so say ye all. We, the jury, in the above entitled action find the defendant Oliver Henry O'Rourke not guilty of the crime of attempted robbery in violation of Section 1298.3 Penal Code of the State of New York as charged in count 2 of the information. This 15th day of April 2014, Samuel M. Huffman, foreman. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is your verdict. So say ye one, so say ye all. We, the jury, in the above entitled action find the defendant Oliver Henry O'Rourke not guilty of the crime of attempted robbery in violation of Section 1298.3 Penal Code of the State of New York as charged in count 3 of the information. This 15th day of April 2014, Samuel M. Huffman, foreman. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is your verdict. So say ye one, so say ye all. We, the jury, in the above entitled action find the defendant, Oliver Henry O'Rourke, guilty of the crime of assault with intent to commit murder in violation of Section 451 Penal Code of the State of New York, a felony, against Robert Quincy, a police officer, as charged in count 4 of the information. This 15th day of April 2014, Samuel M. Huffman, foreman. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is your verdict. So say ye one, so say ye all. We, the jury, in the above entitled action find the defendant Oliver Henry O'Rourke guilty of the crime of robbery in violation of Section 418 Penal Code of the State of New York, a felony, as charged in count 1 of the information. This 15th day of April 2014, Samuel M. Huffman, foreman. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is your verdict. So say ye one, so say ye all. All right. We're going to finish up our Bodhi State Historic Park. All right. Here we go. And I'm going to read this at 180 because it is considered literary. Here we go. The 1880 census shows 253 Chinese residents, but many think the Chinese population was greater than that. The Chinatown site is located in the northwest section of the town. Little information about the 35 native Paiutes is given on the 1880 census. Only one was listed with a name, Captain Bob. The sudden growth of Bodhi impacted the hunter-gatherer lifestyle of the native population. Some of the native people adapted by working in Bodhi and other towns and ranches. Their small huts were found on the ridge above the town. They also worked at Hank Blanchard's lime kiln in Mono Basin. Many Paiute women worked as household help. Across the intersection to the southwest is the site of the Sawdust Corner Saloon, where Bodhi's most disastrous fire began in 1932. A small boy playing with matches caused the fire. Wells Fargo's express office was also on the west side of the main street. Shipments of bullion were protected by the company's armed messengers. The weight of the 120-pound bullion bars also acted as a deterrent to stage robbers. Number 29, Masonic Hall Site Chinese Laundry. On this site stood Bodhi's Masonic Hall, Lodge number 252, established in 1878. Membership peaked at 93 in 1882. In 1918, the lodge consolidated with one in nearby Bishop. The laundry building currently on this site was moved from Bonanza Street. Town residents often move buildings to different locations over the years, usually after fires. Number 30, Bodhi Bank. All that remains of the Bodhi Bank after the 1932 fire is its brick vault. James S. Kane bought the bank, founded by E.L. Benedict in 1890. Despite Bodhi's Wild West reputation, its bank was never robbed. A nighttime burglary on September 1st, 1916, however, yielded $2,000 in cash, some bullion, and other valuables. Number 31, Moyle Warehouse ruins. The Moyle Warehouse was built in 1879, was one of many stone warehouses constructed to store supplies for the long, cold Bodhi winters. Number 32, Kirkwood Stable and Blacksmith Shop. Hundreds of horses and mules pulled wagons that hauled tons of goods in Bodhi's busiest years. This stable, owned by Stuart Kirkwood, housed a blacksmith shop where horses, mules, and oxen were shod. Number 33, Jail. The town jail looks small in proportion to tales of lawlessness during Bodhi's boom years. From 1878 to 1881, the jail was the responsibility of Constable John Kurgan in an infamous 1881 incident which resulted in Kurgan's temporary demotion. Vigilantes took accused murderer Joseph de Roush from the jail and hung him. Number 34, Bonanza Street site. Conveniently located behind the main house saloons, Bodhi's red light district was also known as Maiden Lane and Virgin Alley. Beautiful Doll, Rosa May, Emma Goldsmith, Nellie Monroe, French Joe, and other ladies on the evening lived and worked here in a row of mostly one-bedroom cabins called cribs. From Bonanza Street, you can see a crumbling building with a brick foundation to the north. This was the Maestretti Liquor Warehouse. It is named for Anton Maestretti, a native of Switzerland who owned a saloon and a bakery in Bodhi. He briefly served as constable in 1880. Number 35, Chinatown site. Only 2 buildings and some ruins remain of what was a large Chinatown. Wood frame buildings, some built over stone cellars, lined King Street. The Chinese Quarter offered residents a full range of services, including general stores, laundries, gambling halls, saloons, boarding houses, and Taoist temple. Opium dens were frequented by Caucasian and Chinese alike. Chinese people were discriminated against and not allowed to join the miners' union, which kept them from high-paying jobs. Their main sources of income came from selling vegetables, operating laundries, and cutting and selling firewood. Number 36, Moyle House to the north. This is one of 2 Moyle family houses. The Moyle brothers ran a store and a soda bottling plant on the main street. Number 37, Stuart Kirkwood House. Stuart Kirkwood, owner of the stables, was also a deputy sheriff and later a Mono County supervisor. Number 38, Bell Machine Shop. Bobby Bell, son of Lester L. Bell, was born at Bodhi in 1914 and worked in the mines and stamp mill. He helped stabilize Bodhi's buildings in the 1960s and 1970s. He also contributed his knowledge of the town in the early years of the new state park. He died in 2003 and is buried in the Bodhi Cemetery. Number 39, Reddy House. One-armed attorney Patrick Reddy was known for defending the miners and laborers of the Eastern Sierra. His Irish brogue complemented his courtroom arguments. He lived in this house with his wife Emily and maintained offices in both Bodhi and San Francisco, a 40-hour commute by stagecoach. He eventually became a California state senator. In the later years, Lester L. Bell's family lived here. Number 40, Murphy McRae House. Close to 40 people appear on Bodhi's 1880 census with the name Murphy. 2 prominent Murphys were Art Murphy, who operated a stage line, and J.C. Murphy, president of the Big Meadow and Bodhi Toll Road. However, no records show a Murphy living here. The last owner was Carpenter William McRae. Number 41, Cody House. Michael J. Cody first arrived in Bodhi in 1879 to work at the U.S. Land Office from 1885 to 1886. He was elected Mono County Sheriff in 1888. By 1900, he was working as a miner and living in Bodhi with his wife, Catherine, and 6 children. He died in a mining accident near Bridgeport in 1905. Number 42, Menacini House. In 1910, Joseph Menacini and his wife, Fortunata, both natives of Italy, lived here with their baby daughter. Joseph was a miner for the Standard Company. Number 43, Lester E. Bell House. Canadian Lester E. Bell was in charge of the cyanide plant built by the Standard Company. Introduced to this country in the 1890s, the cyanide process extracted gold from otherwise worthless mill tailings and low-grade ore. Bell's wife Charity was the sister of Martha, the wife of James Cain. Bell's son Lester L. became an assayer for Bodhi's mining companies. Number 44, Cameron House. Andrew P. Cameron, born in Canada, was a Bodhi miner. He lived here in 1900 with his wife and 2 children. Number 45, Sailor House. August Sailor, born in Switzerland, was a Bodhi saloon keeper. Sailor arrived during Bodhi's boom period and worked first as a bartender and then later became owner of several saloons, including Sailor's own one on Main Street. He also engaged in mining. He and wife Teresa had 3 daughters and a son who died at age 3 in Bodhi. Number 46, Donley House. Butcher Charles Donley and his wife, Annie Pagden, an English artist, lived here originally. In the early 1900s, Emil W. Billib and his wife Dolly, daughter of James and Martha King, lived in this house, which still has hops growing on the porch. Billib was the last superintendent of the Bodhi Railway and Lumber Company, which ran until 1917. Number 47, Sawmill. With snow as high as 20 feet deep, winds up to 100 miles an hour, and temperatures down to 30 or 40 below zero, plenty of firewood was needed to keep Bodhi's poorly constructed houses warm during the winter. The winter of 1878 and 1879 was especially severe, and some new arrivals were not adequately prepared. Many died of exposure or disease. Number 48, McDonald House. Dan McDonald was injured in the 1879 explosion of the Standard Powder magazine. This house was later owned by the Burkham family. Solomon Burkham operated a store on Main Street in the 1880s and 1890s. Number 49, Metzger House. Henry Metzger, born in New York, came to Bodhi in 1878 to work for the Standard Company. He was the mill's foreman when the Standard closed in 1913. In the early 1900s, his family included his wife, Lena, and 5 children. Optional side trip. Walk north toward the narrow building. Ice was cut from local ponds in the winter and stored here at Tom Miller's stable and ice house. With sawdust for insulation, the ice would last summer. Number 50, Red Cloud Mining Equipment. This equipment was relocated from the Red Cloud mine southeast of here. The large wooden structure is called a head frame, also known as a gallows frame. It once stood over the hoisting works of the mine's vertical shaft. Beneath it are cages that transported miners and hauled out ore and waste rock. A steam hoist and air compressor are nearby. Optional side trip. Return to Green Street and take the footpath to Bodhi Cemetery. Follow the path from the Green Street west of the D.V. Kane House and across the road. Electrical equipment along that path is from the Mill Creek hydroelectric plant called Lundy Canyon, which supplied electricity to homes and businesses in Bodhi starting in 1910. Looking west, there is a building with a washtub hanging on the outside wall. One resident of this house included Rosie McDonald Moose, a Paiute woman born in Bodhi in July 1897. She lived here with her half-sister and their mother, Katie. Her mother earned money doing laundry for local families. Rosie died in 1984 in Big Pine, California. The Bodhi Foundation. The Bodhi Foundation is a 501 nonprofit organization dedicated to the preservation of California's official Gold Rush ghost town. Our mission is to raise funds to assist with interpretation, education, stabilization of structures, conservation of artifacts, and resource protection. Bodhi became a state historical park in 1962. The park's historic designation does not guarantee that Bodhi will be preserved for all time in its present state of arrested decay. Bodhi must continually compete with the other state parks for limited funding resources to provide for its continued existence. The Bodhi Foundation is committed to helping ensure that Bodhi's history and structures are preserved for future generations. Your financial support is vital in preserving Bodhi. If you can help us with the mission, please contact the Bodhi Foundation, P.O. Box 278, Bridgeport, California 93517. Phone 760-647-6564, www.bodhifoundation.org. And it's very interesting. If you have not been there, I highly recommend that you do. It is amazing. All right, so that we went way over, so that concludes our literary and jury charge for the 225 class.